Everyone, good evening. I'll call to order the public hearing on ordinance 565 regarding, expiration of. If there are any public comments, please come to the lectern. There's a sign-in sheet there, should be a pen, and everybody gets 3 minutes. So the floor is yours. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, then I just.
What we can do, so this year, we can do this, so that.
It's all right.
It felt the two meetings so far apart, but I was like, probably because.
Well, and it's also just the way the dates, like that one was the ninth. One was the 14th. Oh, yeah. At this point, we're only taking comments on this ordinance. We'll take broader general comments later, another topic.
I just need to speak, is that what you're saying?
If it's a, are you here to speak about ordinance
I'm
56?
here to speak about something personal that,
Okay.
concerns me and old Lucas.
Okay, well then that would be in the general public comments that come later.
Okay,
Right now, we're just on this one ordinance.
okay.
Thank you. Because this is the public hearing on that ordinance.
Oh, okay.
And then at 7, we'll go to the regular meeting and there'll be public comments then, and that's when your general comments come in.
Okay.
Five regarding expiration of approvals, you have till 7, and then we'll go into the regular meeting. And if you have general public comments, there'll be another chance for that. Here to comment on ordinance 565? No, okay, because we've got a few more minutes in the public hearing.
It can be 2 minutes usually. I have no comments.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, from this angle, I can't. Okay, good evening. Do we need a motion to adjourn the public hearing on ordinance 565?
Motion to adjourn public hearing, second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is adjourned, and I'll now call to order the regular meeting of council, and we'll begin as usual with the pledge of allegiance.
Nation, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Ms. Britt, would you call the roll?
Council President Suzanne Souter. Councilperson Joseph Day.
Here.
Councilperson Nerman Zabaka.
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt.
Here.
Councilperson Brian Mataway. Also present, City Administrator Antonina Tantillo, City Treasurer James Wisman, Police Captain Kevin Dempsey, City Solicitor Michael Hoffman, City Building Official Jeff Bergstrom, and City Engineer Andrew Wishart.
Thank you. Okay, the first item is our minutes from the last couple of meetings. We have a May 28th special meeting. There's a typo on the agenda that says May 31st, but the meeting was actually on the 28th. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes for May 28th, special meeting. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. The next minutes are from our regular meeting of June the 9th. Are there any comments or corrections, additions or corrections to those minutes? I had a couple of minor corrections on page 3. The 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth bullet point says ran barrels. I think it should be rain barrels. That's pretty minor, but. And then on page 6, the second bullet point from Mr. Day's comments, the Bullhorn Boatyard is selling chances, all members and Councilperson Day, I think the word have, it should be Councilperson Day have tickets. And on page 7, at the bottom, the next to the last bullet point, it says this is the 2205 Board of Election report. I think it's 2025. And finally, and this one's probably the most significant, on page 9, under the second reading of ordinance 566, our budget for the year, in roughly the middle of that first paragraph, it talks about changing that prior to the reassessment, 40% of our taxes came from residential properties and 60% from commercial. And after the reassessment, it says it changed to 52 from residential and 42 from commercial. That should be 48. It was 52 and 48. And then the rest of it is correct. So, if there are no other additions or corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the June 9th meeting as corrected?
Motion to approve the June 9th meeting. Second, as correct. Second.
All in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. The treasurer's, the next item is public comments. So this is general public comments
Sorry.
on,
Before you get to that, the June 9th public hearings, did you put that as well?
okay, so I don't hear that for later.
Yeah, second.
Sorry, missed that one. Okay, yes, the June 9th public hearing on ordinance 564 and ordinance 566. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from June 9th. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, the minutes for the June 9th public hearing are also approved. Thank you for catching that. Here. Okay, the next item on the agenda then is public comments. And this is general public comments about items on tonight's agenda or general matters regarding the city of Newcastle. So if anyone has a comment, please come to the lectern, sign in. And then when you start to speak, you have 3 minutes and there's a timer here that should be visible.
Speak right ahead.
Yes, please, speak into the microphone so we record you correctly and that everybody can hear us. You can take it out of the stand and hold it if that's easier for you. Or adjust it however works best.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight to the council. Quickly, I'm gonna try to get my points across. So, my name is Josie Boyd, and I'm a former member of Mount Salem United Methodist Church. At different times, I continually go by the church to make sure to see about the maintenance of the church and what's going on at the church. So, a couple weeks ago, I went by the church, the grass was high. And I'm the one that had that historical marker put there, so I'm very concerned about the church and what goes on there. The grass is very high, and it kind of just upset me, and I called the Delaware Peninsula Conference and let them know that the grass was high, it should be cut, and that I was coming to this council because I think that somebody needs to hold the Delaware Peninsula Conference responsible for the maintenance of that church and that grass. You contacted them when the church was condemned, so I think that you need to contact them when the church is not maintained. It is a historical property, and it's in Old Newcastle, and I feel like that is a responsibility of yours or whoever in Old Newcastle. When I went down there the other day, the grass was cut in 2 days, but there were about 3 or 4 deers that was in the cemetery. That upset me. I'm 80 years old, and I have been to that church since I was a child, born, raised, and grew up here in Old Newcastle. I've never seen a deer or anything else in that cemetery. A lot of families, not only my families, go there to pay respect to their loved ones in that cemetery. So now that you have deer running around there, in that cemetery, and I understand a lady just moved in 2 houses up from there, and the deer is running on her property, and she has dogs, and they're scared to death to even come outside. So I'm just coming to see and ask about the maintenance, about contacting that Delaware Peninsula Conference when that grass is high, and if they're responsible for maintaining that church because they're the owners of it. But to me, this council or Old Newcastle should be held accountable also because it's a historic building. And I'm quite sure you take care of your historic homes here. So why not be responsible for the maintenance of that church and make sure that the Delaware Peninsula Conference does what they're supposed to. I told them I was coming, I kept my promise, and I'm here to report to you. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bright. You're welcome.
Thank you again so much.
You're welcome.
County resident living at 167 East Second Street. Tonight, I want to talk about the fraud issues near the Chestnuts and the Strand. Every time after raining, always have this power. After 4 years, we still can't figure out who can be responsible for this power. But this time it is different. Last Friday morning, I found our basement, 2 room got this fraud. We believe the new parking lot caused frauding in our basement. Talk about this new parking lot. I still want to see the short time list. Last year, February, when Turner moved here, before no people parking this pad, the small pad. Early March, our neighbor Mark talked with the Turner about this parking on this pad. But I get to the point. Mark said they're both rude. April 12, we go Mark's house, sign the letters to the trustee, question the parking on this pad. Just 4 days. April 16, Turner called my husband with the speaker. I get 3 points. When he lived this town more than 50 years. Second, their house, get our house value go up. The third one, if you don't like, they were parking near our backyard. Yes, he did. Until our next mayor, until December 28th, Turner got ticket. I think for police department. This year, February, is here. City Council approved police department the suggestion no people can park in this area. I was thinking our nightmare will go on until April 15, new parking lot. Yes, this isn't about parking. Even not just somebody want to use public place, be their private parking spot. This is about someone use this parking lot as a weapon for harassment and show their power, their muscle. I just want to ask, who gave him power? Who helped him? When I came here, you can see this time the basement where 2 rooms get covered. They take down neighbor's flower. This flower, I love the garden. It spend a lot.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes are up.
Yes. Okay. You can show harassment. You can show fix our
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay. It's not about the parking space. Always have space for parking. Even we didn't park in there.
Ma'am, your time is up.
They're
I'm sorry.
commercial.
Please sit down.
Car. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. For I still have 3 minutes. Thank you. I have this right. Thank you. Right. Thank you. Next time I will be back. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments tonight? Okay, then we'll go on to the staff reports. First from our city administrator, Antonina Pankova.
Mr. Slim, would you like to go first to the treasurer's report?
Yes, I can do the treasurer's report first.
Okay, that's good, fine, thank you.
All right, this is the treasurer's report as of June 30th, which is 1 year, and it's subject to audit. And at the end of June 30, we had a total cash in the accounts of $12,068,000. Of that, $5,243,000 was in the unrestricted funds, and $6,825,000 were in the restricted funds. That 12,068,000 is about $1 million more than it was at the beginning of the year. And that's because, and I'll cover it, we had budgeted the revenues to be 7,598,000, and the actual year-to-date revenues are 8,662,000. So they're about $1 million more than we had budgeted, which is good. Over on the expense side, we had budgeted 7,598,000, and our expenditures were 6,578,000. So between the two, we've actually increased some money by having more revenues and less expenditures. That'll probably wash out in the coming year. It does even out from over a period of time. So these numbers will be subject to audit, and if anyone has questions, I'll be more than happy to go into more depth and detail with you personally. So that's my report now.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lissman from the council?
I have one around this matter, but feel free to answer if it's, so I had a question about the expense sides on this report. The $1 million that Mr. Wisman just reported in unexpended funds, is that just a function of stuff hasn't been paid out yet in time?
Yes.
I know there are some projects that haven't been completed, but it's just a big sum that I would like to understand. Is it salaries or is it contracts that are?
Yeah, so I wanted to make two comments on the report. Can you hear me okay? The first is that this is the June unaudited report. It is the end of the fiscal year, and there are still bills to be paid before this report is done. So anything that would have occurred in the last fiscal year, we still have to pay out. So that number is true at the moment, but it may change. There were some items which we carried forward into the new budget. So yes, projects that were not yet completed that would be completed in this next fiscal year. So that is why that number looks so large. It's a multitude of factors, but that will change. And once we have the audit report, we'll have a clearer picture of the actual difference in expenditure. And then the second comment I would like to make, there is a note on treasurer's report about the separation day account. It looks like got a large deposit of $117 into that account. That was just an error, and they deposited into the wrong account. It was actually for a different plan. So in July, you'll see that number go back to a much lower number because we will make that correction for the next month.
No questions.
Anyone else have any questions? Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to audit? And the second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mr. Wisman. Okay, and now this.
Good evening, everyone. First, I just wanted to address Ms. Gilroy. Thank you for making the call. We have addressed Mount Salem Church numerous times, and we'll continue to do so. After the meeting, I'd like to connect with you so we can follow up appropriately. Regarding the Ferry Cutout project, it's still progressing. I don't have any updates since the last meeting. They do have some more time to complete the work of on the signals, and then they're working to address the Norfolk Southern final comments. They are close right here, and the MSC is coordinating some work with them as well. And I hope that we will get that done in the next couple months. I hope to have an update once we get through the summer. Regarding the Dobbinsville Denmark Pier, they have finally received their wetland permit, which I announced a couple months ago. They did put the project out for bid last month and had their bid opening in June. They are in the process of awarding the contract to the lowest bidder, which was Adel Construction, and they hope to begin that construction project sometime in the fall and have that completed by the end of May of 2027. Regarding grants, as mentioned at the last meeting, we do have the congressionally directed spending projects moving forward from Senators Coons and Rochester's offices for the flood mitigation projects and the Delaware River Trail. We are still a ways out and finding out if we will get approval for those, but I just wanted to remind you that we do have those projects in the works. Work is underway for the project to pursue a historic designation for the Buttonwood School and the Dobbinsville area via the Federal Historic Preservation Fund for certified local governments. We have applied for a second Safe Streets for All grant at the end of May. This will extend the current grants approved demonstration project to the 6th Street area, as we discussed during the Wilmacco walkability study, and we are awaiting an award decision on that project. Back in May, I submitted the ORPT grant pre-application for the dog park. We have been notified that we have been invited to submit a full application, and we'll do so by December. This will require a grant match, and I will request a council resolution to authorize my application at the August council meeting. In the month of June, we submitted a Sustainable Communities grant through the Delaware Nature Society for a request of about $9,500. This is for various aspects of the dog park, such as the water line reallocation, the water fountain, signage, dog waste disposal stations, and other items. So we hope to hear back soon on that application. Over the past few weeks, we've been working to apply for the Homeland Security grants for building security. We have received one award for one of the grants, but are awaiting an environmental and historic preservation review from FEMA before we can proceed. So we can't complete that work until we get that. And we have applied for 2 additional Homeland Security grants through DEMA and FEMA and are awaiting a response. We are also in the process of a flood mitigation grant through FEMA. We've completed the initial application to DEMA and are in the process of finalizing that submission to DEMA. We have received great feedback from DEMA on the application thus far, and we'll be completing everything by the beginning of August. We did not apply for the BRIC funding as their NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, changed, and it required the projects to be shovel ready, which is why we decided to move ahead with the flood mitigation grant instead, which will allow us to get to a shovel ready project. So we should hopefully hear that the next round of BRIC funding will become available in the near future. Hopefully the fall is what we're hearing, and then we'll apply for that as long as we're ready to move forward. We are awaiting final board approval on the Healthy Communities Delaware grant for the Delaware River Trail, which we applied for in April. We did receive notice that they should be able to approve us for $75,000, which just shifts some of the funding around for that project, because we did initially apply for $698,000. We've been advised that their board should approve this sometime this week, and we should receive an award letter shortly thereafter. I'll send out an email if I do receive that soon. Regarding the bond bill requests, we have been advised that we received the grant match for the Safe Streets for All project in the amount of $108,968. We also received an award in the amount of $111,000 for the mill and overlay of Grace Street. And then we also received the ORPT match for the Delaware River Trail project in the amount of $150,000. I am still awaiting all of those award notices and actual funding to come through, so I'll be in touch once we're ready to go with those projects. I would like to introduce everyone to Megan Rydell. She is our intern for the summer, our city management fellow. She is a student at the University of Delaware, and she is a rising senior. She has done great work thus far. She's really helped us with our grants and all of the projects that we're working on. She's also helping us with our city health fair that's forthcoming this fall. I'll have more details at the end of my report, but she's been a great asset to us thus far. So everyone can welcome her. That would be wonderful. And I also would like to introduce Andy Wishart, our city engineer. He is with us for a couple months now, and he has been also a wonderful asset to us and has been very helpful in a lot of our grant applications. So let's give him a warm welcome as well. Just a couple more updates on city projects. APS and Cirillo do have a few more outstanding items to complete, hopefully this summer, and then this summer will be wrapped up. The playground installation, as I shared at a previous meeting, we did delay that in order to allow for the summer camp to occur throughout the summer. But once the camp is ended, we do expect the project to begin in August, and it will continue throughout the end of September. Once the installation begins, we'll provide updates and notifications on the park closure, playground closure, and that will be forthcoming in the coming weeks. Just a friendly reminder that street sweeping will continue throughout the summer. Next week is street sweeping, so please review the map and schedule and remember to remove your vehicles. Just a reminder that the trustees of the Newcastle Common and the city have partnered to subsidize rain barrels as a project brought to us by the Flood Committee. Residents can purchase the rain barrels on the rainbarrels.ca website. We were supposed to have the event to deliver the barrels this coming Friday, but we would really like to get some more people to make their purchases before we have that event. So additional information will be forthcoming about when we will move that event to later this week. And check out our Facebook. We have a really great social media post video from Alice Reel, who is on our Flood Committee, talking about her own rain barrel and the benefit that she's experienced with it. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who participated in and helped to make Separation Day successful. It was a great event this year with a larger parade and festival than ever, a wonderful fireworks show, and honoring our history as we celebrated Dillard's 50 and Newcastle 375. I would like to extend a special thank you to the City of Newcastle Police Department, Public Works Department, the Goodwill Fire Company, MSC, DelDOT, DEMA, Event Allies, City Council, all of our elected officials at the county, state, and federal level, and all of our partnering agencies, the Newcastle Courthouse, and all of the organizations who participated this year. It's a great success. And last but not least, the Board of Health is planning our second annual Health and Wellness Fair on Saturday, September 19th at the Goodwill Fire Company. Details for the event will go up this week. So if you would like to register, we encourage you to check out our website or Facebook, and we really appreciate anyone that would like to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Tintolo?
Just three quick questions. I'll start with Health Awareness Fair because I have a note in my notes 9/18, so it's 9.
Yeah, this Saturday.
Second question is regarding the cutoff fair cutoff work. Can you confirm anybody in the room that they're still planning on adding signal buttons, because I think that was one of the things that was presented to us that we are currently that's a little further down.
Yeah, I will confirm with them and get a next expected date.
Okay. And third question was about Brick Grant.
Yes.
In reading the minutes, the funding would be available for FY27 at the earliest, as we were informed. So the application you're planning to submit it would be for FY20, correct? Just to understand expectations around.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. So funding actually is the current grant that the application was just due sometime in June. That was the NOFO that was released last spring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a year behind, so it's FY26. I believe, and so they expect the FY25, FY26 should be released in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're hoping that by the fall we can apply for this next round of grant.
But is that one also going to be shovel ready department?
We're
Because we
hoping
won't be,
if we get an FMA that will bring to get the work grant.
so it could be delayed if we're not having things in place by then. Okay. Thanks.
Our bond agreement is on September 26th. So will the playground be done by then, or any way we can push them to get it done before we do that on the 26th?
Realistically, I don't think it will be, just because each phase needs a certain amount of time. I will double check, but I'm not positive that it will by that date.
That shut down the entire playground or just the part that's under construction?
The entire playground. Sorry.
If there's any way we can push that, that would be great.
I wish we could. I'll see if there's any way we can, but everything is contingent on weather and the ground, and it's wet if it's dry, if it's hot, if it's too cold. So we're kind of in a good spot, but also dealing with some storms that may happen. So I'll do my best, but I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Two questions in regards, one in regards to Market Street and the steep step, if you will. Just wanted to check in on the status of that project and possibly make a note, to give us an update in August.
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you. And then in regards, comment, question, in regards to street sweeping, the Code Red app, people have an ability obviously to sign up for that. Does that send out notices regarding,
We've done it in the past. We can do it this time, for this coming, street sweeping and then in August.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and do that too.
Thank you. And I asked that question in response to, after listening to the most recent planning commission meeting, there was a resident of Van Dyke Village who came and spoke out about that. And she had some senior neighbors who had a concern. So if we could do that, I know they would appreciate it.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Today, Chief McCabe isn't with us, but we have Captain Dempsey in his place.
Evening. Chief already submitted his monthly report via email and it'll be on our website shortly. It's not very yet, but it will be shortly. I had a couple of things to comment on. One was Separation Day. We did a new security footprint this year. It was very successful in deterring some people that would have maybe been bad actors. And we had intelligence that discovered, or that we learned that we actually did deter people. It was required a lot of help from other agencies. We got a lot of people in here to help us do that. Not just other police agencies, University of Delaware, the racetrack that help us with setting up that. And I also want to talk about the backpack and the school supplies program. We're accepting school supplies and backpacks. They can be dropped off at the police station until August 18th. They're going to be delivered to the schools. We've been doing the Directed Patrol program, which has been very successful. We've been focusing on stop signs, speed violations in the areas where we have had citizen concerns. If you have concerns, please reach out to us. Let us know at the police station so we can add it to our list. And the pack meeting will be 7/23 at 6:30 p.m. in the community room at the police station. That's all I have.
Any questions for Captain Dempsey from council?
Mine's really quick. In the response time page, there's a robbery that's listed under 8 seconds response time. I'm just curious, is this something that occurred in front of policemen at, like Separation Day? It's just typically around 5 minutes. I wasn't sure.
So
It was a
there was an
typo or something.
officer in the area, and there were 2 officers in the area, and they got there relatively quickly, but there was a delay in the guy report.
I was trying to use my imagination that this must have happened in front of somebody.
Yes, they were far away and they got there relatively quickly.
Awesome. Thank you. That must be the fastest response time you guys had.
Good response then.
Anything else? Thank you, Captain Dempsey. Mr. Bergstrom, did you have anything for us tonight? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, council communications, we'll start with Mr. Day.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few things. So the Old Newcastle Litter Crew had an event on June 28th. We cleaned up along Wilmington Road from Morris Lane to Buckwood. I'd like to thank the 8 volunteers that came out for that. We collected 15 bags of trash. Successful event. Our next event will be Sunday, July 26th, and we'll be cleaning up in the 7th Street and Washington Street area, and we'll be meeting at the liquor store at 3 o'clock. I'd also like to thank the St. John's Lodge for letting the litter crew use their parking lot at our last event. Plug for the Saturday market. It's still going every Saturday from 9 to 1, if anybody's interested. And lastly, the Newcastle Historical Society has an exhibit on the 2nd floor of the Arsenal. for the country's 375th anniversary. So it's I'm sorry, for Newcastle's 375th anniversary. But it's very nice. If you get a chance, please go and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zell?
I just have one item tomorrow is the city concert. Due to heat, possibly, do not know yet tomorrow afternoon, they will make a determination if they will be postponing that. So look on their Facebook page for the Newcastle Community Park for the city concert tomorrow.
Thank you, Council President. I'll be very brief. I wanted to join thanks that City Administrator made for Preparation Day, and Mike can elaborate there further, but it's just great to, I hope everybody had a good time during that event, and thanks to everybody who helped organize it. Like Council Person Zell just noticed, I wanted to talk about weather advisories, keep your eyes and ears about them, be careful how you approach weather as we go through the summer. And last thing I wanted to just say is I enjoyed this last month seeing what's happening in the World Cup, how different cultures are coming together and turning our different cities, and sharing their cultures with everybody, and just kind of created that nice unity. It's nice to see. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Maverick?
Thank you, Council President. So, with that service member spotlight, this month as we honor Delaware 250, Newcastle 375. Born and raised in the Golden State, he has a Golden Heart and now is a resident of the Diamond State, our city. Business owner, a community organizer, and a volunteer extraordinaire. He's a member of the Police Accountability Committee, sits on the Board of Elections. He was inspired to serve by his father, who was a member of Armed Services to Vietnam. In 1986, he signed his name in the dotted line to make his parents proud. Stationed in Germany when the Berlin Wall came tumbling down. He is a disabled veteran and still tried to get back amongst the ranks. Woo-ha is one of his favorite sayings, and he still works to support his fellow servicemen and women. Mr. Rodney Pratt, thank you for your service to this country and to the city. I guess you can be called a golden diamond. Other comments that I have are as follows. I had the honor of serving on a grant award panel for the Delaware Division of Arts. There is an amazing myriad of fun, impactful, educational, and multi-generational projects that take place in our state throughout all three counties. Fortunately, I didn't see any projects submitted for our city, but hope to create some awareness to change that because there's some free money out there. On Tuesday, June 9th, I was in Dover at Legislative Hall and listened and participated in the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee meeting that was chaired by our own Representative Franklin Cook. House Bill 439 was discussed, and I was pleased to speak in favor and stand for safety and security in Newcastle and beyond. The bill is known as the Truth in E-Bike Marketing Act. It protects consumers by regulating the advertising and sale of high-powered electronic mopeds and motorcycles. It was co-sponsored by our own Senator Nicole Ford and Representative Franklin Cook, passed in the House and Senate. Bill's subject matter expert was Newcastle resident James Wilson from Bright, Delaware. Last year, we solicited the assistance of WMAPCO in a walkable community study. One of the reasons why I pushed and championed for this partnership was safety for residents, drivers, pedestrians, and visitors. And I drew upon my own empirical and qualitative data. Additionally, I heard from several residents in different areas who had concerns about the speed and side mirrors being damaged, for example. Several residents who participated in the walkable study also echoed this. Post the walkable study, this was affirmed by WMAPCO through their usage of data analytics. At the same before mentioned June 9th, 2026 meeting at Legislative Hall, Representative Alana Berry from Lewis carried forward House Bill 363 that would allow local jurisdictions to lower speeds looser restraints in residential areas. It was passed in the House and Senate. Quite frankly, people need to slow their asses down, or someone gets hurt or worse. I will do everything in my power to bring this traffic calming strategy to the city and respectfully implore my colleagues and teammates to do the same. We are continuing to stand to help save and change lives. I'm happy to report that our community partner, Delaware Breast Cancer Coalition, will be hosting a second 10-week educational program that includes nutrition lessons and walking and exercise. This program will be on Monday evenings at 5:30 p.m., commencing August 31st. Meetup location will be the Newcastle Library. And finally, I wanted to make a note for some of our small business community. Governor Meyer launched Delaware Commercial Corridor Initiative to support small businesses. He says by putting these dollars directly into the commercial corridors, we will help local businesses succeed while strengthening the places where Delawareans live, work, and shop. This is a $4.5 million program, grant program. Eligible small businesses may apply for funding for interior renovations, exterior and facade improvements, equipment purchases, and code compliant upgrades. To qualify, businesses must be located in the qualifying commercial corridor. We have that here. And the first round of funding is expected to be awarded by the end of September. I will personally be looking to make sure that our small business community is made aware of this great initiative. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. Thank you. I don't have anything to add except that, pardon me, I also thank all involved in making Separation Day a great day. So, thank you. And the mayor's not able to be with us tonight, so next on the agenda is the report from Goodwill Fire Company.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. You should have the annual or the weekly or monthly report packet in with your information as prepared by Captain Moore. There is a little bit of a formatting issue towards the back. I apologize for that. Maybe it's fine, but it's fine. But we will get that squared away for next month. Some highlights. 324 total incidents for the month of June, average staff about 10 or 11 per day, 201 EMS incidents and 123 fire rescue incidents. Separation Day, I'm sure you saw us out there in our red shirts, was a very big day for us, a very heavy presence. We had over or just under 2 dozen medical emergencies that we treated in some way, shape, or form that day. So we stayed busy with the heat and all the associated things going on. In addition, it was both our pleasure and our honor to lead the 250th Separation Day Parade down Delaware Street. It's a great tradition for us to be a part of, and we're happy to do it. One incident of note, and this technically falls into July, but it seems like we're cruising right through that already. The fire company, Goodwill Fire Company, did assist 5 Points Fire Company on a 4-alarm fire just before the holiday. There was a lot of publicity surrounding that, just due to the nature and circumstances. So we were there, we were assisting them with that. And then finally, on the topic of grants, I am happy to announce that the Goodwill Fire Company was awarded a grant for personal protective equipment through the Delaware Forest Service and their firefighter support program. Any questions for the fire company, Councilor Stan?
And if you can stay where you are, we'll jump ahead to resolution 2633, recognizing Goodwill Fire Company on their establishment of the career fire chief position. So I will read the resolution. Read the resolution. Whereas the Goodwill Fire Company has served the city of Newcastle and its residents for over 100 years, and whereas the Goodwill Fire Company has been led by a volunteer fire chief for many years, and whereas the Goodwill Fire Company, like many fire companies, has seen an increase in demand in call volume, daily operational oversight, and administrative leadership, leading the company to make the decision to appoint a career fire chief. And whereas David Maskey Jr. has served the Goodwill Fire Company as an active member for over 18 years and as a top responder for the last 15 years. And whereas David Maskey Jr. also serves on various committees, including the City of Newcastle's Planning Commission, and also participates in many training initiatives, planning initiatives for the Goodwill Fire Company. And whereas Fire Chief Dave Maskey Jr. has led the Goodwill Fire Company for the past 8 years and has guided the department through many milestone events and periods of growth. And whereas the Goodwill Fire Company has appointed Fire Chief David Maskey Jr. as the department's first career fire chief. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Newcastle that the city hereby recognizes and congratulates the Goodwill Fire Company on their forward thinking and leadership in their decision to appoint a career fire chief to best serve the fire department. And be it further resolved that the Mayor and Council of the City of Newcastle, that the city hereby congratulates Fire Chief Maskey Jr. on his promotion to career fire chief and thanks him for his many years of service and his contributions to the city thus far, and wishes him the best in his career position. Thank you very much. So motion to. Motion to approve resolution 26-33. A second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Yes, if there's anyone from the fire company or family, if you'd like to join in. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, the next item is second reading, discussion, and possible vote on ordinance 565. An ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle's Municipal Code, Chapter 230, that's zoning code regarding expiration of approvals. This resolution came from Councilmember Ray, so I asked him to discuss it and possibly take over.
The intent of this legislation is to clearly define the expiration period for the development plans that are approved in the city of Newcastle. They're not in perpetuity, it just provides expiration dates for them. So we don't, a couple things. One is when you approve a plan that never expires, it's hard to plan everything else around it. It's hard to do a comp plan. So this ordinance is meant to provide a reasonable time for a property owner or developer to get his plan in place. If not, there is a provision that they can ask for a modest extension. But overall, that's the gist of this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I will make one note on the final page of the ordinance, there's a blank where a date would have been, because the 5 years will start with, for newly approved plans, it will start with the date of their approval. For plans that have already been approved in the past, 5 years starts tonight with the passage of this ordinance. And so in the final paragraph of the ordinance, there's a yellow well, in brackets, it says 5 years after city council approval. So that comes out to July 14th, 2031. So just to be clear to get that date out there. We also have a letter from the chair of the planning commission saying the planning commission discussed this ordinance and unanimously recommends approval. Are there any other discussion from council?
Thank you, Council President. I want to thank and acknowledge City Solicitor, City Administrator, City Planner, and give a special acknowledgement. Thank you to Councilperson Day. Something that we learned independently and separately that both of us desired this for the city. Thank you. It's nice to know that sometimes we're not alone. To me, this is the personification of four things. First, campaign promise from 2023 of strategic and pragmatic growth was something that was targeted as a necessary policy and practice improvement for good governance. We cannot continue to say who's on first base, what's on second, I don't know who's on third base when it comes to planning, development, growth, capital, and residential improvements. Checks without expiration dates can no longer be issued. Conversations and abilities concerning this matter dating back to 2024, the city solicitor, city planner, and city administrator. Third, the desire to give future residents and councils and leadership the ability to have agency when it comes to paramount decisions. And this creates a framework and removes the burden of adding expiration dates to decided matters and incorporates a well-documented, consistent, and time horizon schedule. And unfortunately, there have been approvals, no expiration.
Anything else, Mr. Spaka?
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I wanted to join in and thank Councilperson Day and Councilperson Mataway and everybody who helped draft this ordinance and their forward thinking. Just like they just mentioned, it's very important for our city to have things in place like this that will allow city administrator, our lawyers, our councils to make decisions that are, kind of fresh and relevant and enable them to, not have projects that are just grandfathered in forever with sentence. And, so very happy to see this come in front of us. Thank you, guys.
Any other comments?
I think this is great, the expiration date on. I just have a single question. Is for the ones that are already in flight today, is some kind of notification going to be sent to them to let them know of this new change?
Like Austin solicitor, there's nothing in the legislation that requires that, but there's nothing that prohibits the city from doing that. So if that be the will of council, I don't think there's a lot of them. So if that be the will of council, it could be.
I think it would be a good idea to put them on notice that they have 5 years from today. Sure. They haven't moved forward with their plan. So if you can take care of that, thank you.
I have a question and a comment. For the record, it's important that this be known that this is concerning multi-family housing. This is industrial development. This is commercial development. This is not someone doing something to their house. This is big work that entails street improvements, infrastructure improvements to the city. So that needs to go onto the record. I do have a couple questions for our solicitor around some of the interplay around timing and cause and effect for a certain couple examples. So for example, Councilperson Day brought forward an ordinance earlier this year in which we mandated sprinklers in new construction of homes and residences, and also applies to structures, 2-3 stories, things of that nature. If someone had an approved, excuse me. Does this enactment, using that example, carrying it forward, we approve this, let's see how I give this example. If someone came and got an approval in January, this coming January, and this coming March, we approve that ordinance in regards to the sprinklers, do they no longer have to abide by that because their approval was before? Like, what's the interplay with that type of scenario?
Loaded questions. So the short answer, what this ordinance does and what this talks about is the site plan approval. So if a development requires site plan approval, it has to come before council, goes to planning commission, it's come before council. If it requires site plan approval, that approval is in place until it expires. We've got the 5 years that sets the expiration. So if you changed any code requirements that affect that site plan approval, they are grandfathered. Those requirements don't apply as long as the plan doesn't expire. That's what this ordinance touches upon. What you're talking about, you also then have different levels of permits, right? So you have the building permit and what applies, what doesn't apply. It's going to be on a case by case basis. So I don't want to answer the question in a blanket way, other than say what this ordinance talks about is the site plan approval and everything that's within that site plan.
And to give another example, what's real, and we know what's happening, sea level rise, things of that nature. Someone gets an approval next year and they have that, quote, a 5-year runway. Sea levels rise. The lowest grade level to, the city adopts FEMA's updated regulations, et cetera. In that scenario, that person or project is grandfathered in.
If the codes change on the basis of, right, so if the code changes, they they would, speaking generally, be bound by the code they were approved under unless and until that plan expires.
Right. Now, the city has adopted FEMA's regulations. And a couple months ago, for example, we adopted the Newcastle County multi-jurisdictional all hazard mitigation plan, right? And holistically, some of the rates and things for flood insurance is based upon the city adopting those things. In your opinion, if the city were to have a big multi housing unit or commercial project proceed and quote unquote be grandfathered in and not have to do essentially what everybody else is doing, does that throw or put the city in any situation where we would, lose our ability to recoup the benefits?
Yeah, and it's a real difficult question to answer because it's apples and oranges in many ways. So there's different layers that affect different pieces. So what you're talking about in terms of FEMA policies and whatnot, largely separate from the zoning question. Sure, there's interplay. I understand that, but that's a hard question to be able to give a definitive answer to.
Right, and I just say that because as we're considering this 5 years, and there's different jurisdictions that do different things. Some, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I just you all acknowledge that, for example, the FEMA is going to change what they do in this 5-year period. It's a placeholder, and other things will change with that. And we may, as a city, enact updated building codes and things of that nature, and we could inadvertently be grandfathering someone into something that is not necessarily a best practice or most up-to-date building code, et cetera, in the best interest of our residents. So that's just something I just wanted to raise as a possible.
And they're not prohibited from following the new code. We just can't require them to follow the new code if their site plan was approved prior to us approving the code change. Right? So if they see it as best practice, the developer, the builder, they may decide to do it. This doesn't prevent that. Is that correct, Mr. Hoskins?
Just a point of clarification. So we have two sides. We have like a site development side and a building permit side. Generally, when the code that is followed for the building permit is when the permit is issued. So if we've approved a unit townhouse community 3 years ago, and they come in today to get permits, they should be following the code today that we've adopted. They're not grandfathered based off the site plan.
And that was the point. That's why I said when you talked about the sprinklers, that's where the building permit question is different than the site plan. This addresses your site plan. That's the distinction.
I want to hear that. Thank you.
Just to add to that, it's a question for you, Councilperson Dan, anybody else in the room. Wouldn't their insurance as well as funding be potentially not even issued if they were following the old building codes if a new one was issued later? I'm just guessing. Insurance.
I couldn't answer the question on insurance, but I'm sure that all their funding requires them to follow all the codes, and standards that are in place for the jurisdiction they're working in.
Yeah.
So, and we obviously adopted the sprinklers, so I don't see that there's going to be any developments that are grandfathered, at least for that or any other building code provisions.
And then my other question is for you, Mike. You said that, and maybe I misunderstood, so just clarification for me, that site plans that were already approved would be grandfathered in, but the language here in 5B, I read it as it wouldn't be. That an approved site plan recorded before the adoption of this regulation shall expire unless the construction of development or improvement shown that said site plan has been done 5 years after this adoption. So did I misunderstand that statement, or is this
So
correct interpretation of it?
So to clarify, the value of this ordinance is that it is grandfathered. And unless there's an expiration date, it remains grandfathered. And so the point of this ordinance is to put in play an expiration period. And so what 5B provides is that if a development has already been approved and isn't subject to an expiration, it'll now be subject to an expiration. But it is grandfathered by being.
I understand, but I want to just clarify that for myself. So their clock starts ticking if this gets adopted. Correct. In a sense.
I think the distinction between a site plan and a building permit is an important one, and that you clarified that for us. Thank you, Mr. Hoff. Anything else? Are we ready to vote?
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2026-575.
Wait, I'm sorry, wait a second.
I apologize. I just have one other quick question. Mr. Hoffman? What the ordinance doesn't say, and sometimes the devil's in the detail, I've learned this from you. It doesn't say that, any, expiring, site plan approval would be required to, fall under the most current regulations in regards to building code, et cetera. Is that worth adding to this, or is it assumed?
So if there's, and this is why we want to be careful, what we're talking about is site plans, not building permits. I think that is an important distinction. What this does, once you've expired, you have expired. So if you're coming back, you're starting anew. And so you're going back through the process and you're subject to the codes in place at that time. And so that's the effect of expiration is your site plan approval goes away and you go back to the beginning and you start over.
Okay, are we ready to move forward now?
Madam President, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2026-575.
Okay, we need a roll call vote on this, since it is an ordinance, swear it, please.
Council President Souter,
Yes.
Councilperson Day,
Yes.
Councilperson Zubaka,
Yes.
Councilperson Zell,
Yes.
Councilperson Mataway.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item is resolution 2026-34 to approve a site plan for Newcastle self-storage. We have a number of documents in our packet regarding this. I would like to clarify one thing, that we have a letter from AECom, and Mr. Wishart is going to talk about that. Item 8 in that letter says the applicant should provide evidence that the subject plan has been reviewed by the Newcastle County Conservation District for stormwater management and erosion and sediment control. And I'm told that that has been received, but we just don't have it in our packet. Mr. Wishart.
Good evening. Yes, we're here to speak on the resolution to approve this site plan. AECom has reviewed it and has tracked it on behalf of the city. The plan was prepared by the Cost Company. The property at 300 West 7th Street. The property is zoned DG. And this type of expansion for self-service storage facilities is permitted by special exception with conditions. Those special exception was approved by the Board of Adjustment on January 7th of this year, and public later on January 29th. Should note that the zoning ordinance requires screening of these facilities, and it was found that the existing fencing and landscaping and the existing concrete wall were suitable to meet that requirement. The applicant did provide a letter of no contention approval by DelDOT to continue using the existing entrance. I should note that there are no new water or sewer connections associated with this development. And as was mentioned, the standard plan approval from the Conservation District was received late last week, and we can provide a copy of that to the city. Based upon our review, all the conditions that we just have been met. I would recommend that resolution to approve. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Wishart?
You have all questions of the conditions here, you know? I see the measurement, but it's really something, so I'm here there.
There is a letter that speaks to my glasses are back at the table, of course. Alright. And square footage is on something?
Yeah. Bigger few pieces, so the longer building on the right is 150 by 200 instead of 1,000 square feet. Two buildings, like the building on the left, that's a 94 by 24. Yeah, the amount we had before, so that's 2,256 square feet. Now we gave the building is 54 by 24. Yeah, 1,296 square feet.
Have you heard all that?
I'm sorry, you're the applicant. You're representing the applicant.
Yes.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Did you see my?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Julian Thorntree, I'm the council company located at 610 to the Plaza, New York, Delaware project.
So we're talking roughly 6,500 square feet here.
Councilor, today, can you repeat that number again? Right?
Based off the numbers he gave us, we're roughly 6,500 square feet. It was 3,022.56, 1296.
We're going to have 30,000 square feet, 2250 and 1296.
Yeah. The first one, not three, I was going to say three, was 30,000.
More than 36. And on the map that we have, some of the buildings have like darker boundary lines. Are those the new proposed buildings and the other ones are the existing buildings on the site? Again, because this was so tiny, even with my glasses, I couldn't. Any other questions or comments? I talked to Mr. Hoffman briefly before this, because this project has been approved by the planning commission and building officials and has gone through the Board of Adjustment. It's before us tonight for what's called a ministerial decision. We cannot turn it down, but we could set conditions if we wanted to, for it to move forward. Is that correct, Mr. Hoffman?
That is correct. And you can also, if you had technical questions, you can refer it with technical questions. The key is you have to actually identify a technical question. If you don't have technical questions and it meets the code, it is a ministerial review, you must approve, although you can put some reasonable conditions.
I have a couple questions. I asked for the form of our training engineer, Mr. Tillo. I don't see here. Certainly understand that you're respect the fact that they went for the Board of Adjustment on January 7, 2026. That decision is not listed in the packet. So I'm wondering, I understand a special exception was provided. Was an expiration for this special exception given as a part of that approval? And if so, what was it? Second question I have is how ready is this project? When did they, Mr. Project Engineer, when did you foresee the applicant property owner moving forward?
Tomorrow, if possible. Susan will building permit.
Okay. And not as young as I used to be, so forgive me, and I do have my glasses on, but are there any assigned parking spaces that are going to be included in this designated parking areas?
So none were required. There is some existing as you turn in on the right hand side. But this being a storage facility, people are generally parking in front of their neighbors that don't have to let them.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure people aren't parking on the street.
And it's not the type of situation where everybody would arrive at their unit at the same time. Unlikely, maybe two or something, but so you don't need enough parking for everybody to be there simultaneously.
Could you explain how you're addressing stormwater management for the facility?
Yes, this is what we call a standard plan. It's 100% impervious right now, consisting before it gets built, and then they're constructing buildings and paving all impervious. Okay, so there really is no increase in stormwater runoff. We call it a curve number, and when that curve number doesn't increase by more than one whole number, it's considered a standard plan. And put together like that's not the plan there, but I have to show it. It's just great. The plans it's on the very inside of the control the flows, so the dirt doesn't run out onto the street or on the neighbors. And, that's it.
And tell me, were you looking up the answer to Mr. Mattaway's question about the expiration date?
Yes, I would, and not see any time frame expirations.
So that means none were placed on but to issue a building permit, to receive a building permit, they have to meet those conditions, right? That were set by the Board of Adjustment. Mr. Bergstrom saying yes. So in other words, if they filed a building permit that did not meet the conditions set forth in the Board of Adjustment decision, the building permit would not be granted. Is that right?
So we have a problem. We have a problem. This doesn't seem like this, or if what Mr. Antillo indicated is true, which I have no reason to doubt it. It's not the first special exception that has gone before the Board of Adjustment and no expiration has been provided. We're gonna need to put some parameters and safeguards around this. I don't know, we have to do an ordinance requiring the Board of Adjustment to implement as part of the process. We're like hustling backwards, and they've had to go back and like give people expiration dates on their special exceptions. Like, this is real and it's impactful. I don't know how we resolve it. You say you're ready to move forward. How long do you think the project will take? 6 months, a year?
Something of this size is probably more automatic of 6 months, maybe sooner. Like weather right now, we're not anywhere close to winter, so I wish close to 6 month mark.
But
I'm not speaking of this.
even with the expiration that we've just placed on site plans, that is the expiration for them obtaining the building permit. And so if they're prepared to move forward and file for a building permit tomorrow, if we pass this tonight, then they will have met, if there was an expiration date, the clock would have stopped at the point they filed for the building permit.
I can speak to this, Mike Hoffman, city solicitor. So there is, what Councilman Mattaway is referring to is and I was trying to find it as I'm sitting here unsuccessfully, but there is buried in the code under the special exception conditions, a line that says the Board of Adjustment shall set an expiration. What that refers to is the time frame to implement the special exception. It is not referring to how long you can have the improvements that they're seeking. So what that refers to is once the site plan approval is then approved, it's then subject to the site plan approval expiration period. So that 5-year clock begins for the site plan approval. Once that happens, then the special use exception becomes irrelevant. That time frame becomes irrelevant. We did identify that there were 2 projects that didn't have a time frame set. This being one of them. Because this was a site plan approval that was coming to council, and once council approves the site plan approval, then that expiration becomes implemented. This one was not brought back to the Board of Adjustment for the to set a specific time frame. The other project was because it's on a different track and a different time frame. So that's the distinction there. But going forward, we have noted that when you have a special use, there is in the code a requirement that the Board of Adjustment set a period within which action has to be taken before that special use expires. And so going forward, that issue will be remedied.
Any other questions or discussion?
I'll just do quick questions.
Thank you, Council President. So first question is bullet 2 in your letter, the special exception that you were talking about? this question for you guys.
That's fair.
So just to expand, that's the question. Okay. And then my second question is, and I don't know who this is addressing to, probably whoever was attending board of adjustment meetings, who can chime in here is, I always ask this question, what did the neighbors comment about this? So obviously nothing to do with this, but just curious what was their feedback. I see that there's two parcels bordering this village.
So I'm going to speak out of school, Mike Hoffman against a solicitor. There was, the immediate neighbor, I believe, I don't think that was, so what, do we have the minutes? We can grab that. I do have the section here, and so this is what the code, so you have in the code under conditions or special uses, and then a completely different section under violation of conditions. Buried in there is where this time frame comes into play, and it says, the Board of Adjustment shall prescribe a time limit within which the action for which the special exception is required shall be begun or completed or both. So if you're getting a special exception to add to your self-storage facility as part of site plan approval, it's the approval of the site plan. And so once the site plan is approved, that becomes your new clock. And that is why, Councilman, we did not recommend going back to the board for that. And I will check the business.
Why are you looking at minutes? Is this 24-hour run facility, like self-storage? Like, is it, you know, just I have a key and I can walk in the gates that are there, or is it working hours?
Roger, you're going to get that question to you.
Thank you.
I'm Ryan Henry. It's also normal. Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's all.
And everybody has a key, not somebody working there. Sorry, I think you know.
No, just it's open. It's not.
Okay, yeah, I see. The gate's open during the day. Thank you.
That's great. If I may comment here. I will say one thing about this, we've got this, is it's kind of disheartening that we have a site that's so far out, fine, you're 100% impervious surface. We're just adding square footage, 6,000 square feet. And we didn't even consider like to try and bring it even just a little bit closer if we're doing some kind of improvement. I mean, there's nothing that the city, you know what I mean, is getting out of making it, this isn't making the site better for the city at all.
Is this regarding stormwater?
Yes.
Okay. There are pretty strict regulations on stormwater as far as what the state says and what the city then says. What I referred to earlier was the standard plan. That's a state regulation. As long as you meet the requirement, not increasing discharge, plan coverage stays the same. You don't have to do a stormwater system to improve water quality. On this site, there is no increase in discharge. So when it rains right now, a certain amount of water comes off. After the building completed the built, same amount of water
Comes off to somebody else's property.
No, because we keep the grading consistent with the existing drainage pattern. So where the water is flowing now is where it will flow after construction. To the street and all that right away. We have catch basins and pipes and all that stuff.
When we issue special exceptions, this is where the Board of Adjustment has got to step in and ask for things. We have the hammer, we're not using it, but they allow sites to continue with 100% impervious surface is not in our best interest, in my opinion.
We may wish for that for the future, but
That's
it is what it is for this project, right?
Anyone comments?
Do you have a copy of the decision with you? Board adjustment decision? You did? Perfect. Simple as that, I just needed to see it. So there was, no public comment, but there was a letter received and was read into the record from John DeMundi opposing the application.
Visual feedback. There's nothing in the minutes stating this one.
The decision didn't get into the substance of the letter. The letter is part of the record, but DeMundi was opposed.
Thank you.
So, we could make a standard practice of including the Board of Adjustments, decision, in these types of, reporting.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
Any further discussion or questions? Are we ready to vote on this? There a motion to approve resolution 2026-34.
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
The resolution is adopted. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a discussion of the annual report from the Planning Commission on our comprehensive plan. Ms. Reagan is here. We have a copy of the report in our packet. Basically, they go through the various goals of the comp plan and what steps have been taken thus far to meet them. We are required by the state to file these reports annually. Ms. Ray, did you have anything to add or cover, or are you here to answer questions? I'm here.
No, that's not true.
There we go. I don't really have anything to add other than towards the end, there was a comment that we were going to survey regarding accessory dwelling units, but with the state having just passed a law requiring everyone to be able to do that, that obviously is somewhat moot at this point. So we're gonna kind of fall back and figure out what we need to do.
And this is under which item from her? Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's the last paragraph in item 3. As of June 26th, the Planning Commission is reviewing the implications of permitting accessory dwelling units, et cetera, and they were creating a survey to gauge the level of interest among residents. So the state says that we have to allow them. Does the state allow us to set limits on their size, or?
That's what we need to see.
So it's also new, we don't know yet.
Yes, at this point, like, and I haven't discussed this really with anybody, but I think I've asked Councilman Day if he could get me a copy of the requirements for Newcastle County, and if we can get a copy of the bill that was passed, we'll kind of review that at our, I guess it can't be this month, it'll have to be the August meeting. And just see what we're allowed and then what it looks like versus Newcastle County. And from there, we could begin to figure out, because I do think we ought to have some kind of regulations around them. Because I don't want somebody building basically a second house on there.
Right.
And I think we need to make sure setbacks and Chief Majewski and I discussed it, and I know he has some concerns to ensure that any dwelling that gets built would be accessible to the fire department or the emergency people. So all those things we'll take into consideration. And
So in other words, the planning commission is now shifting from the survey to finding out what the implications of this new law are, and then decide on our course of action once we know more about it.
And we'll either do a survey based on what we find, or maybe hold some public hearings, just so people understand.
I mean, I thought the purpose of the survey was to gauge if there was sufficient interest in the community in creating accessory dwelling units on their property to warrant developing the requirements for those units. But
we don't have a choice now.
but still, how much effort do we need to put into it if nobody wants to do it? I mean, that doesn't mean, if nobody wants to do it now, doesn't mean next year somebody might not want to do it. So.
And that's why I think we need to
We
put
need to
something
still
in
work on it,
place.
but we need to find out what
we can do.
parameters we have to work with under this new state law.
And our city planner, Mr. Robbins, is looking at it as well, and we'll have a more in-depth conversation at our planning commission.
So by us approving this report, we're simply saying, well, this is what they've done, this is what they're going to do, we're not.
Just providing an update on what we've done so far, and what we're doing to do.
Right, it's not
saying-
approving any particular action on this issue.
No, this is all just reporting to the state to just affirm that we are continuing to operate within the comprehensive plan. And as you noted in there, we did a full review of it. We spent a number of council meetings where everybody read a couple of chapters of the comp plan, and then we discussed it. And in doing so, one of the questions that was posed is, does something need to change? Does it need to change now, or do we wait for the 5-year? And pretty much we identified some things that probably either need to be changed or updated, but none of them were critical enough to do right now. So I'm anticipating 2 years, which would be 2030, is when 2 years before when the full comp plan review is completed. We're gonna start with looking at it, figuring it out, talking to people, holding a number of public forums for people to come and share their thoughts and ideas.
And that's on comp plan as a whole, not just this accessory
Correct.
dwelling unit.
And that's for the 10-year update.
Right, because we just completed the 5-year review, which is a more thorough review than the normal annual review.
Correct.
So this is somewhat pro forma, since we've already done the more extensive review and council has approved that a couple months ago.
Yes. Any other questions that I hopefully can answer?
Yeah, so not necessarily just for you, but would the accessory dwelling units be eligible for the downtown development district? Rebates and stuff.
That's an interesting question.
I know Councilperson Day has talked about this in the past, that we promote their program, so I don't know if there's, that's thinking about survey and promoting DDD, that's also another way.
Actually, I have a meeting with Rick Farrell next week, completely unrelated to this. I'll have to put it on my notes to ask him about that.
Thank you, appreciate it. I wanted to ask, is this report already submitted?
No.
Okay, so then if we can add under, on first page on the G4-3, that the city has submitted an application for a track or in Buttonwood neighborhood. I think it would be appropriate to add in that G4-3 incentivizing investments undeveloped parcels. That's just a comment there.
Oh, right, for the thing.
I know we didn't receive it, but it shows the signal that the city is working on.
Sorry, what do you want?
For G4-3.
Yeah.
To add a submit application for the track.
So these opportunities.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, thank you.
You understand? that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Thank you. And then under next section G4-4, I'm not sure if I'm reading this incorrectly, but I would like to add the meeting we had last year sponsored by Councilperson Mattaway about walkable communities in this somewhere. So, because this talks about the plan adopted in 2021, we will not grow, but I think it would be great to talk about the community effort that was, completed last year.
Say which section was this?
G4-4 on the next following.
The very next meeting.
Yes,
That would be a good addition.
thank you.
If we make these additions, then it doesn't have to come back to council, or if they simply adopt recommendations we make, is that sufficient?
Correct.
Make the motion.
With the proposed amendments.
Next proposed change is under G13-3 for recreation facilities. That's a 4th-page in our plan, very bottom. This is just a ballot, but I think it's important. The distinction of city versus the nonprofit. It says that it explains the process about playground subcommittee and Encore, and then says facility access to funding. The playground subcommittee formed the 501c3 organization. I would say some of the members of the playground subcommittee formed they're not the only ones, obviously. So I don't want to make it seem that a government issue committee formed the 501c3. That's basically how I'm reading it. So that's my suggestion. Those are all my comments. Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else have any questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Very detailed report by you and the committee. Question, as a point in regard to under G12, that same page, it goes on to the following page talking about flood resiliency efforts and adoption of policies made by the city. Do we need to add in there that, or should we, that we adopted Newcastle County multi-jurisdictional or hazard mitigation plan 2026? That in April of this year.
I think we can wait till next year because county is still in the process of finalizing their adoption and getting FEMA approval.
Okay.
So until it's finalized by them, it won't be finalized for us. So let's wait for them. But I'll make a note to add that next year.
Anything else? So do we need a resolution to approve this report? Is that how we handle this, or I mean, a motion? Yes, not resolution.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the report, the municipal comprehensive land use plan annual report with the suggested additions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item is on the, discussion or clarification of the Buttonwood School, grant that we approved as part of the budget.
Yes.
Did you have something to add about it?
Yeah, just provides background. So, during the budget season, when we talked about the contribution requests, we did receive the request from the Buttonwood School, for their landscaping updates and then the addition of a greenhouse, playground and picnic tables. This is a much larger in some requests than we've received from other organizations. So we had a lengthy discussion about whether or not we would provide the full amount or not, and wanted further detail on the timeline of the project. At the time when you all made the vote to approve the budget, we did not have specific dates for the timeline. So the entire amount was authorized for the organization, no problem. But what I am just seeking clarification on is whether or not you want me to give the full amount upfront, or if you'd like me to give it in a phased approach, because those options were discussed, and I just wanted to close the loop on that. What they did provide us is a project timeline. So they expect the tree removal, which is their first phase, to begin on Monday, August 3rd, and be completed by August 21st. Their second phase will be for landscaping and site prep from August 24th to September 25th. And then their third phase, which is installation of the greenhouse, playground, and picnic tables, that would begin on September 28th and end on November 6th.
I mean, it seems like they anticipate completion within a reasonable period of time. It's not going to spill over into the next fiscal year, which I think was what we were possibly thinking might happen, in which case we could split the contribution, but my only question is, and we discussed this briefly during the budget meetings, is they're improving the playground at the school to use as part of their programming there, and that sounds great. There is a city playground in Buttonwood, just a few blocks from the school.
Right.
And so the question becomes, are both playgrounds needed? And if not, could the money currently being used to maintain the city playground be either moved into this project for this as part of the money for this project, or used towards other playgrounds in the city?
I think that's a greater conversation to be had. I don't think we should make a rash decision.
No,
I think that, this is a private, regardless of if they say that this is gonna be open to everyone, that's great, and I appreciate that. And I believe them. There's no reason why we can't believe them. But I think that we do have to recognize that we have city-owned property where we do have playgrounds in various neighborhoods throughout the city. And while this is in another neighborhood, it's not a city-owned playground. Mm-hmm. So what do we want to do? Do we want to propose a partnership with the Buttonwood School to help maintain it and then therefore maybe make it a city playground? I think there's greater considerations and a larger discussion that would have to come into play. And then, the residents who do live by the existing city playground, how are they going to be impacted by
Well, right, it would have to be a conversation with community members.
Correct. So I think that long-term planning is to be had. So we can certainly add that to a future agenda, discuss how we'd like to go about that conversation. I just would like to clarify this because it was kind of left open-ended at the budget season, and I just wanted to make sure I was following your wishes.
I would like to offer an opinion about that, but I just want to touch upon what Council President just talked about. And I agree with the conclusion of the conversation. I think my recollection from budget meetings, and I know we discussed a lot of things, not just around this matter, was that we would keep parallel to playgrounds to see how it works out in the first year and then decide what type of partnership we would try to establish or not. I do propose what was just mentioned, some sort of community outreach where we, through Buttonwood, partnership with Buttonwood School, can hopefully gain some insights on what would they like to see, because I think ultimately that's the, the voices we need to be listening to help us make this determination. Distance for versus the new versus current playground, etc. Usability and then availability and all that stuff. The second opinion I wanted to offer was about what you asked about installments or one payment at the beginning. I'm edging towards suggesting initially provide the money just because the last sentence of the schedule overview talks about the three phases run in sequence with long lived materials for phase three, greenhouse, shed, and playground equipment ordered at project start. So structures and equipment arrive ahead of the installation windows. So for that sentence alone, I would think we would want to provide the funds in one lump sum so that they can proceed with those orders. But if I'm confused about what our money
No,
is going towards here, then I'm happy to talk about phase.
no, I think that is absolutely correct. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that, we did follow up with them and we got this information and it just looked like this is happening sooner than later. It's not gonna be a 2-year project or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
And just to confirm, some of our funds is going towards some of these materials that
Oh, yeah.
ordered for the third. Yeah, then that would be my recommendation, just because I wouldn't like to postpone there that,
Right, absolutely.
completion of the project.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you for providing this.
So it sounds like the consensus is, yes, give them all the money up front so they can place their orders, give deposits to contractors, et cetera, because the project's expected to be completed within a few months.
Yep.
Within 4 or 5 months. Am I summarizing everything accurately? Okay, I don't know that we need to vote on that because we already voted on the budget item.
That's fine.
But you just want a clarification on
Yeah.
how to give the money, whether all at once or spread out.
Yes.
Okay.
I would just also add, and this is implied, but to be clear, I encourage you in your conversations to let me know that if any of this threshold of this project needs or is deemed appropriate to have building code inspector oversight or review in regards to some of the lay of the lands, work permits, et cetera, all that is expected. And I think that should be understood, but that is expected.
Right, absolutely. I will remind them.
Okay. I think that's pretty much taken care of this then. All right, thanks. So the next item is the rules of operation that the planning commission has, rules of procedure that they have devised for themselves. Well, this is an amendment of the rules that we approved for them last year, right? Or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And as I know there's no date, at least on my copy of the, you told me earlier, the planning commission approved these rules of procedure a couple months ago, March. So this is just the council approving what the planning commission has already approved.
Yes, and just for a little bit of background, when I took over as chair, there were no rules, and I was particularly concerned that there wasn't a rule regarding the time frame that somebody could submit a project that the city engineer would then have to do his thing. So we wanted to include something that I think they have to submit something at least 15 business days before it can be submitted to the planning commission. And then just how we operate, how we elect our officials, how our agenda is created. So just to smooth out the operations.
Are there any significant changes in this? I mean, I remember much of this from the previous rules, but are there any big changes?
Yeah, the biggest change is allowing commissioners to petition to have things added to the agenda. And that if we miss at the January meeting, the selecting officers or the chair and the vice chair, that they continue in place till we have the next
to confirm that, yeah. Because things happen, and especially in January, if meetings have to be canceled or whatever.
Exactly, exactly.
So any other questions or comments, Ms. Rain, from council members about these rules of procedure?
I would be disappointed if you didn't.
That's right. It's kind of funny me saying this. But respect the time limits, totally understand that, 2.5 hours. Has there been any consideration, if you're confining your meetings to 2.5 hours, say, you're capping the meeting time, you're capping the amount of time that the public can speak? What about the actual presenter? 45 minutes, an hour? Because if you're saying you're gonna have a meeting for 2.5 hours and they talk for 2 hours, you only got 30 minutes left.
This is true.
And that has happened,
Okay.
right?
Not since I've been chair, but actually I think I remember it happening before.
Okay.
So
I just want to throw that concept out there for consideration.
we may be amending these again.
Right.
Okay, thanks, that's a good idea, actually.
And also, it was adopted by council and, it was also adopted by all the subcommittees, but referencing to Zoom comments, able to be heard from residents,
Is that it? Oh,
that was something new.
That was discussed at the same meeting that these, rules were discussed, and that's already in the resolution. But
Okay.
not to be separate.
Okay.
When council approves Zoom meetings for itself, we also approve them for.
Right. I just want to make sure that you and your body understand that it's an option for residents to Zoom comments and also, to have comments read in lieu.
Right, I
no,
think
we've been reading them in lieu, cause I frequently get comments.
Presented.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that was an option in case somebody needed to participate via Zoom, so.
Any other comments or questions?
I just want to make a comment that I'm jealous of your 15 calendar days before a regular scheduled meeting, because that's not unfortunately something luxury that council has, so, but that's, yeah, I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Well, actually, you should be happy for Chris, because he's the one who gets the requests and has stuff he has to do, and I was starting to see he just didn't have enough time to do it, in a good manner. So he was most happy about that.
Okay, do we need a formal vote to accept these rules of procedure?
To approve.
Yes. Okay, is there a motion to approve the revised rules of procedure as presented by the planning commission? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the rules are adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the final item is the first reading of ordinance 568, which is a lengthy one. So I'm going to start, and probably Mr. Day will take over, and we may go back and forth. Because it is so long. This is ordinance, do we need a motion to, a motion to introduce ordinance, to have the first reading of ordinance 568?
You can, typically, that's only if you want to deviate, so the default rule is that you read it in its entirety. You can default from that by saying motion to read by title only, but if you're going to read it in its entirety, you can just.
No, I meant, did we need a motion to read it at all? Yeah. Okay, then keeping with tradition, we read the whole thing. So ordinance 2026-568, an ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle zoning code to establish standards for the review, siting, and operation of data centers. Whereas the Council of the City of Newcastle, City Council, possesses the authority to adopt, amend, modify, and repeal the City of Newcastle Municipal Code, City Code. And whereas the City Council has determined that it is in the best interest of the city and its residents to proactively regulate data center development to ensure compatibility with surrounding land uses and to protect public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas data centers present unique siting and operational considerations, including energy demands, backup power systems, cooling systems, noise, and potential environmental impacts. And whereas it is in the public interest to adopt clear standards governing buffers from sensitive receptors, noise performance, cooling technologies, air quality, electrical capacity, coordination, abandonment, and decommissioning security. And whereas this ordinance proposes standards addressing data center siting, noise, cooling systems, generator technology, utility coordination, abandonment, and financial assurances, which the city finds instructive for adoption of data centers and application within the City of Newcastle. And whereas the City Council further finds that the provisions of this ordinance are rationally and reasonably related to, substantially advanced, and are narrowly tailored to achieve its goal of protecting and preserving legitimate governmental interests, including but not limited to the protection, preservation of the public health, safety, prosperity, general welfare, and quality of life. Now, therefore, making the express finding that the provisions of this ordinance enhance and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the City of Newcastle, be it ordained by this Council of the City of Newcastle as follows. Section 1, City Code, Chapter 230, zoning, Section 230-1B, is hereby amended by adding the following definitions to correspond with the alphabetical order of the current list of definitions. With deleted text identified by bold, strike through, and new language identified by bold, underlined text. I don't think we're deleting much. I think we're just adding, right? Okay, so we would add a definition of data center. A facility, campus, building, or portion thereof designed, constructed, or operated primarily for the processing, storage, management, transmission, distribution, exchange, or recovery of digital data and information through network, computers, servers, storage systems, telecommunications equipment, networking equipment, and related information technology systems. A data center includes all supporting and integral infrastructure necessary for its operation, whether located within or outside the principal building, including but not limited to electrical infrastructure, utility service equipment, substations, transformers, switchgear, power distribution equipment, uninterruptible power supply, UPS, systems, battery energy storage systems, backup power systems, emergency generators, and associated fuel storage and delivery systems, cooling, ventilation, air conditioning, heat rejection, and other mechanical systems, water and thermal management systems, fire detection and suppression systems, monitoring, security, and building management systems, telecommunications and fiber infrastructure, and all other ancillary equipment, structures, and improvements that support the continuous and reliable operation of the facility. Section 2, City Code, Chapter 230, zoning, Section 230-25B, Industrial District 1, is hereby amended as follows. The following uses may be permitted as a special exception upon approval by the Court of Adjustment in accordance with Section 230-57B of this chapter. Data centers are item 3. Data centers are subject to the following requirements. A, no portion of any data center, including but not limited to generators, cooling equipment, fuel storage, and equipment yards, may be located within 1,000 feet of any residentially zoned property, 2, the property line of any lot with an existing school, or 3, the property line of any lot with an existing daycare center. B, visual screening in the form of walls or fencing in combination with suitable landscaping must be provided to reasonably shield the data center use from residential property. The visual screening must consist of a combination of an opaque wall, decorative fence, berm, or similar screening feature, together with a landscape buffer designed to provide effective year-round screening of buildings, equipment, parking areas, loading areas, and other operational features of the data center from adjacent properties. The landscape buffer must include a mixture of evergreen trees, evergreen shrubs, and other plant materials sufficient to create a continuous visual screen. Evergreen trees must be installed at a minimum height of 5 feet at the time of planting and must be spaced no more than 15 feet on center, or an equivalent planting arrangement that achieves a continuous year-round screen within 3 years of installation. C, rooftop mechanical equipment and other appurtenances must be concealed or integrated within the roof such that they are not visible at ground level from the public right-of-way. D, the site must be designed to minimize noise impacts on neighboring residential properties, schools, and daycares through siting, shielding, enclosures, and comparable measures. E, a noise study prepared by a qualified acoustical professional must be submitted with the Board of Adjustment application. The study must establish pre-development ambient noise levels at the property lines of the nearest residential properties, schools, daycare centers, and other sensitive receptors. Model operational noise from all data center equipment and infrastructure, including but not limited to backup generators, cooling systems, transformers, substations, electrical infrastructure, HVAC equipment, battery energy storage systems, and other mechanical or electrical equipment, and demonstrate that the operation of the data center will not increase pre-development ambient noise levels by more than 5 dBA at the nearest residential property lines, schools, daycare centers, or other sensitive receptors. The study must also include an analysis of low-frequency noise and infrasound generated by all major operational equipment, evaluating octave band sound pressure levels between 1 Hz and 200 Hz, and identifying any tonal, impulsive, or periodic characteristics. The difference between unweighted sound levels, dBz, and A-weighted sound levels, dBA, at the nearest residential property line, school, daycare center, or other sensitive receptor must not exceed 20 decibels during normal operations unless the applicant demonstrates through a site-specific acoustical analysis that no adverse impacts will occur. Any approved data center will be subject to a condition that the city may require post-construction acoustical testing upon receiving a complaint. Additionally, any approved data center will be subject to a condition that the city may require mitigation measures, including acoustical enclosures, barriers, equipment relocation, or operational limitations as necessary to achieve compliance. Upon receipt of a documented complaint, the city may require post-construction acoustical testing by a qualified acoustical professional, and if non-compliance is demonstrated, the owner must implement corrective measures within a time frame established by the city. Compliance with standards of this section must be maintained throughout the operational life of the data center. Take over.
F, the Board of Adjustment may require that the data center incorporate site-specific noise attenuation and screening techniques, including but not limited to the following measures. 1, vibration isolation systems, including spring and neoprene isolators to prevent structure-borne noise transmission from generators, chillers, or HVAC units. 2, acoustic fencing and walls, solid or composite barriers with a minimum sound transmission class rating of 35, extending fully above the line of sight between the noise source and the property line. 3, building orientation and shielding. Siting of data center buildings or equipment yards so that the structures themselves block direct noise paths toward residential or institutional uses. G, water supply. The applicant must submit a written statement from the applicable water utility confirming the availability of adequate water service and sufficient system capacity to serve the proposed data center. The applicant must also submit a water management plan that identifies estimated daily and annual water consumption, projected peak demands, anticipated sources of supply, water conservation measures, cooling system efficiency, and contingency measures for drought conditions, utility interruptions, emergencies, or other events that could affect the availability of water resources. The Board of Adjustment may require modifications to the plan or additional mitigation measures to minimize impacts on public utilities and ensure the reliable and efficient operation of the facility. H, energy supply. The applicant must submit a written statement from the applicable energy utility confirming the availability of adequate energy service and sufficient system capacity to serve the proposed data center. The applicant must also submit an energy management plan that identifies estimated daily and annual energy consumption, projected peak demand, anticipated sources of supply, energy conservation measures, and contingency measures for utility interruptions, emergencies, or other events that could affect the availability of energy resources. The Board of Adjustment may require modifications to the plan or additional mitigation measures to minimize impacts on public utilities and ensure the reliable and efficient operation of the facility. I, the data center must use closed loop cooling systems for process and equipment cooling, meaning a system in which the cooling medium is contained within a piping circuit for reuse, unless the Board of Adjustment approves an open loop or once-through cooling system after coordination with applicable state agencies. The applicant must submit to the Board of Adjustment a written statement from the applicable local electric utility confirming either the availability of sufficient grid capacity to meet projected connected and peak loads for all proposed phases, or documentation of on-site generation meeting or exceeding projected load. K, an emergency backup generator must be certified Tier 4 or utilize natural gas with selective catalytic reduction and achieve equivalent or superior emissions performance to Tier 4 diesel. Emergency generators will be used solely to provide backup electrical power during utility outages, emergency conditions, routine maintenance, and periodic testing necessary to ensure operational readiness. Routine generator testing will be permitted only between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Emergency generators will not be used for peak shaving, demand response programs, commercial power generation, or the sale or export of electricity to the electrical grid, except as may be necessary during an actual utility outage or emergency event. L, the applicant must submit a hazardous materials management plan with the Board of Adjustment application identifying all hazardous materials proposed to be stored, used, or maintained on the site, including but not limited to fuels, battery, energy storage systems, batteries, refrigerants, lubricants, chemicals, and other regulated substances. The plan must identify the type, quantity, and location of each material and describe all storage, secondary containment, spill prevention, leak detection, fire protection, inspection, and emergency response procedures. The plan must also identify the facility's energy response personnel, provide current emergency contact information, and describe coordination procedures with local fire, emergency medical, and hazardous materials response agencies. The plan must be updated as necessary to reflect material changes in operations or hazardous material storage throughout the life of the facility. M, site lighting must be designed to shield it to achieve a 0-foot candles at adjoining residential property lines. N, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the owner or operator must submit a decommissioning plan for review and approval by the city. The plan must describe the procedures for the removal of all buildings, structures, equipment, generators, battery energy storage systems, fuel storage systems, utility infrastructure, foundations, and other improvements associated with the data center upon permanent cessation of operations. The plan must also describe the restoration of the site to a safe and stable condition in accordance with applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. The approved decommissioning plan must be maintained throughout the operational life of the facility and updated as necessary to reflect significant modifications to the site or its operation. O, Approved data centers must include a condition requiring that the operator or property owner must provide written notice to the building official whenever the use approved as a special exception under this section is out of active operation for more than 6 consecutive months. Should the data center cease operation for a period of 1 year or longer, it will be deemed abandoned unless the Board of Adjustment grants an extension for good cause shown. After a data center is deemed abandoned, the operator or property owner must, within 6 months, either A, schedule a site inspection with the building official to verify compliance with all applicable approved conditions and use requirements prior to recommencing operation, or B, remove all equipment, structure, systems, and associated improvements related to the approved data center use in accordance with commissioning plan approved by the building official. P, periodic compliance report. As a condition of the Board of Adjustment approval, the owner or operator must submit a compliance report to the city every 3 years following the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. The report must be prepared and certified by the owner or operator and must demonstrate continued compliance with all applicable conditions of approval and the requirements of this ordinance, including but not limited to noise, lighting, landscaping, and screening, hazardous materials management, operational conditions, generator operation, electric consumption, water consumption, and any other applicable special use permit or Board of Adjustment conditions. The city may require supporting documentation, studies, or inspections as necessary to verify compliance. 4, any other industrial use not permitted as a matter of right, which would not violate the intent of this section. Section 3, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 4, in the event of any existing ordinances or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provisions of this ordinance shall control.
Thank you. For tonight, is there a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.
The bank.
I was actually really interesting now. It's like reality.